You're watching the Sporting Time Show with host Doug Thompson. Sponsored by Jewelry Barn and Pawn Shop.
Welcome to the Sporting Time Show. It is another Saturday night, and we are super excited to have you joining us this evening. We are going to have a great show. We've got two of the top golfers in, I guess, the third region in golf that will join us later on in the show here. Very excited to talk to them about the upcoming region tournament and also the Leachman Buick GMC State Golf Championships. But first, I want to bring on an old friend of mine who has done a lot of sports with me over the years. Brandon Phillips joins us now with a different hat. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing well, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Now, I want to get all your titles right.
Okay.
You are the Vice President of the BG East Little League.
That's correct.
And also the Director of Communications for the Warren County Football League.
That's correct.
And any other titles?
None that I know of.
None that you know of.
Probably a few things on the outskirts I've forgotten about.
It is great to see you.
Likewise.
You and I have covered sports for a number of years. We have done a ton of radio remotes, Friday Night Lights, so much fun that we've had together. And you pivoted because you had young sons that have now grown up. You have 11 and 13-year-old.
Which is crazy, to think when we started, they were so little and we were watching kids. And
That's right.
It was hard to imagine that I would have kids that size or that age, and they're starting to get there now.
I know. Well, hopefully we'll be covering them in a few years as well.
If they're lucky.
But Brandon, you have your thumb on what's happening in the youth sports arena. And I'm just curious as to what you've had to go through to get these kids back on the field, back in sports at the younger age groups.
Yeah, well, certainly this year looks unlike any other year we've had before. And I would just want to lead in by saying, it's a collective effort of a lot of folks. There are a myriad of guidelines that are involved when you start thinking about from the CDC to the governor to local guidelines to recommendations by KHSAA to the Warren County schools to the city schools and, of course, both parks departments. And so I could tell you anyone who is involved with any one of those organizations has been knee-deep in trying to study information and understand because, first and foremost, when it comes to athletics, the safety of the kids and the family is number one, hands down. But I think the thing that you're really starting to see as we learn more is that, kids are really needing and hungry for a sense of normalcy. Obviously, that's not just youth sports. There's other activities as well. But I think parents, administrators, community leaders are really looking at how to balance, make sure we make good decisions to keep our kids safe, but give them an opportunity. So we have a lot of new guidelines this year, particularly, I've talked a little bit about, or we'll talk a little bit about Bowling Green East Little League. It doesn't look like what it looked like last year. Yeah. And hopefully it's not what it'll look like next year.
So did you get, early on, it was about school. Do kids go back? Do they not? Do we play sports? Do we not play sports? Was there a push from the younger kids, from parents and just collectively to say, hey, we need to get these kids back on the field? And what did you guys do as an organization to move that ball forward and get these kids, and what do they have to do?
Yeah, I think certainly from the parents' perspective, there was a sense of wanting to have their kids involved and back in activity and out of the home. And I say that, in humor, but the reality is they needed a sense of normalcy. And so, I can give you kind of a specific example of what Little League Baseball looks like now. All of our spectators are in the outfield. We're limited on the number of spectators that we can have, so it's not what you're used to seeing at Kariakis Park. It's a much different scene. If your team is batting, we have 2 kids in the dugout, and the rest of the kids are spread out in the bleachers with canopies and things. And we've created, along with city parks, accommodations to allow for that.
Wow.
And so now, it's spectators in the outfield. They're reduced. The kids are spread out. We have to look at our numbers and think about the number of coaches to kids. We don't have concessions, which is something many people had dinner, at the fields on most nights. And so
it was a big fundraiser.
That's
too.
Right. Yeah. And it helps raise money for the league. So ultimately things look different, but I would say hats off to our coaches, players, and our families, because while it was an adjustment, it was imperative for them to kind of learn and figure out how to exist in this way. And in doing so, we were able to have a league, which ultimately was the most important thing once we knew that we could.
We got about 30 seconds left in this segment, but talk quickly about the Great Lakes BG East.
Yeah, so BG East 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds won the district tournament. Kentucky is the only state in the Great Lakes this year as it relates to Little League that's actually having a state tournament. So we were very fortunate. Our 10-year-olds and our 12-year-olds, respectively, won their district tournaments. They'll be advancing to Oldham County to play for a state championship very soon.
Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Brandon joins us again to talk about the future of youth sports right here on WNKY. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Sporting Time Show on WNKY 40. Like us on Facebook and follow ST on Twitter.
Welcome back to the Sporting Time Show. Doug Thompson. Alongside me is Brandon Phillips. Brandon, we are going to continue our conversation about the future of youth sports. You kind of told us what you had to go through to get us to this point, but how do things look for the fall?
Well, we really were sitting back and watching KHSAA guidelines and trying to understand what their recommendation was going to be, what the governor was going to allow, and ultimately what the schools would do. And I think what you're seeing now is just a good intention of trying to move forward, putting in the best protocols and procedures that you can. But what I would tell you, and I think your high school athletic directors and coaches would tell you this as well, because it's been our experience at the youth level. It's day to day and it's week to week. It's very hard to project or make plans long term. Ultimately, I think you're just trying to get from one day to the next, from 1 week to the next. And you know how coaches are. They're creatures of habit. They want to have things planned out and everything understood, so they can prepare. And that's just a challenge now. And so I think what you're going to see is fall sports is going to be the litmus test of what to expect. Now, winter sports, high contact indoor still adds another element to that.
Does.
But I think we're all sitting back with our fingers crossed, hoping that fall sports goes well, because I think that's going to set the precedent moving forward for what we can expect in the winter. And there seems to be a real sense of optimism for the spring, that just with the timing of that, more time to understand, possible vaccines, getting back outdoors, that the spring, fingers crossed, could look more like what we're accustomed to. But right now, it's kind of day-to-day working through fall and looking ahead to winter.
So as I mentioned before, you have a 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, Mason and Cole. What has it been like as a dad? So I'm going to have you take off your communications director's hat and a VP, everything that you do. What has it been like for you as a dad and your wife to have two very active young men who love to play sports go through this? Yeah,
well, I think this probably echoes what a lot of parents would tell you. We are so accustomed to having somewhere to be and being very, very busy that there was kind of two sides to this. Unfortunately, that we're here. But one side is, as you start to slow down, you don't always have some place to be. That means more family time and more things that you're doing other than the activities. And there were some positives to that. But at the same time, I think routine is important. And I think having an outlet for exercise, energy, somewhere to be and somewhere to do, routine is important for the kids. So I think we have tried to maintain those routines as best we can. We've introduced new activities and games, and now we're playing Nerf guns outside instead of going to a soccer match or a baseball game. But I think you just have to get creative in finding ways to continue to have those outlets. So we look forward to getting back to normalcy. But I would tell you, some of it was nice, just having an opportunity to really connect as a family. And then the rest of it, you're just trying to fill in the time with things that you can come up with.
So as far as we look into the fall, is it football? Will they kind of take a step back, or what do you think we can look forward to as far as youth sports go, or is that still being worked on?
It really depends on where you are and what the guidelines are. I can tell you from the Warren County Youth Football League's perspective, we elected to postpone the season, and that was really driven by the guidelines that were being handed down. And of course, that's recommendations from a lot of different people as to what is most appropriate for youth sports. And given those realities, safety is important, and then being able to provide an experience for the kids is also important. And we just didn't feel we could do those two things with where we were right now. And so we've had to postpone that. In other other areas, they're trying to do that. Some programs that are affiliated with schools may have different guidelines, and they're trying to do that. Yeah. I think the good thing is, as long as there are folks out there playing and participating, it is going to open the door for other opportunities, assuming all goes well, and we hope it does.
Are we ever going to get you back in the high school arena? I mean, are we going to wait a few years until your boys get a little bit older?
I hope so. And my kids, I think I've made them feel bad indirectly, because I told them, we had so much fun, all the things that we would do together and the different high school sporting events that we would go to. But as they got busy, I needed to focus on them. And I don't think I did a good job of saying, but that's what I wanted to do, and that's okay. And so they're like, Dad, you need to go do some of that stuff. So hopefully soon.
Well, I know one coach in our area that misses you, and I'm talking about Brad Hood.
Oh, yeah.
I know he wants you back in the mix.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a guest on the show very shortly in the upcoming weeks. But with everything that they got going on, just trying to get their first game or second game underway, a lot on their plate right now.
Well, and I've been texting a lot of the area coaches as football season is upon us, because we still have a little extra time with our limited activities, and I want to make sure I can get on that guest pass to get to the games.
Brandon, you've got it, and it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in today, and we're going to have you back on the show again. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, one of the top female golfers in the state joins us right here on the Sporting Time Show, WNKY, NBC 40. Welcome back to the Sporting Time Show. One of my all-time favorite guests and girl golfers is joining us right now. She is a senior at South Warren High School. Faith Martin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is so good to see you. You finally made it to your senior year.
Finally.
You have been playing golf since the 6th grade. That was your first state tournament.
Yes.
The Leachman Buick State Golf Championships in the 6th grade. Boy, has your game evolved, right?
It has changed a whole lot. That's for sure.
So let me ask you first, what did you work on between your junior year last year and currently right now? Was there a part of your game, because I know you're always out there hitting range balls or putting or chipping. What was it that you really wanted to focus on?
My short game for sure. I think that's where everybody can improve, even amateur, professional. Anybody has room to improve on their short game. And so I really took the time to focus on that this year, and I've definitely seen some improvements from last year.
Now, I don't want to get too technical, but, a lot of golfers have different wedges in their bag. Mm-hmm. So do you have like 3 wedges? Do you have 2 wedges? Do you say, well, I want a 56 or I want more flop? Are you like that kind of golfer?
I have a 58, a 54, a 50, an approach wedge, and a pitching wedge. So we have it all in the bag.
Is that right? So, you got to leave something out of the bag. You only get, how many clubs do you get in a bag?
14.
Is that right? So you really rely on your short game.
For sure.
So, you committed to WKU, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. You're going to be so close to us. But, coming into your senior year, did that take some of the pressure off of you, having committed? Obviously, you still want to win a Leachman Buick State Golf Championship. Mm-hmm. You were in contention last year or the year before. You're always in contention. But you have a really cool field this year of just local young ladies that did pretty well last year. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about, your aspirations or your goals for your senior season.
Definitely state is for sure one of my top goals. It always has been. Even before I played high school golf, me and my dad would go out and watch the older girls play, and I always said I want to win that state title. So that's definitely one of my goals. But before you get to state, you got to play good at region. So
right. I know. Where's region at this year?
Franklin Country Club for the girls.
Okay, so you're pretty familiar with that. How difficult, of course, is that, or what are some of the challenges that you find just playing in a region tournament in general? And playing at Franklin's Country Club this year?
I think that you can set up some tough pins there. So for someone that's not used to it, that might surprise them. And there's some holes on the back nine that are pretty tough. But I think with me being familiar with the course, I think that's going to help a lot.
So I want to ask you, there have been so many fantastic female golfers that we have covered over the years. Nikki Kohler, two-time golf champion, back-to-back golf champion. Emma Talley, most recently. Do you keep up with Emma at all? Do you watch her on the LPGA?
For sure. I always keep up with her every round of the scores, mostly because her swing coach is my swing coach as well. So.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
I used to go and watch her in her college tournament, so we've always been watching her and keeping up with her, especially now on the LPGA.
So do you have an aspiration to, once you get done with WKU, that you might take a run at the LPGA and try to qualify and play in some of those tournaments?
I've thought about it, but I think that's just something that God's going to have to decide later down the road.
Yeah.
It's really hard to decide that realistically now. So,
and again, I don't want to get too technical, but what is your go-to club? I mean, what is it, that you put this club in your hand and you say, I got this. It just gives you all sorts of confidence, and you just know that you're going to hit it well or strike it well.
See, I'm superstitious, and so I don't pick a favorite club. I don't have a favorite in the bag. So
you do, but you won't tell me. You won't tell me what your favorite club is. So you love to hit them all equally. What about what about off the tee box? You feel good about the drives this year? I
feel good about the driver.
Yeah. Do you ever hit hybrids or any of that stuff off the turf and any of that stuff?
Occasionally.
Yeah. You got such a good game. It's just, you're going to have to, when you're done with WK, you're going to have to give us lessons. We'll have a Sporting Times lessons by Faith Martin, and we'll get you in there and you can give us all lessons.
Sounds good.
Congratulations on a great career. Can't wait to see how you finish up your high school career and also at WKU. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, more golf right here on the Sporting Times Show on WNKY. Welcome back to the show. Doug Thompson, your host, and I got to tell you, we are a month out from the Leachman Buick GMC State Golf Championships. More golf here. We're going to bring in, he's one of the hottest golfers, again, in the region. He's a junior at Franklin Simpson, Chase Wilson. Chase, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's good seeing you, and, I've watched you play golf for a number of years now, and last year, in a Leachman Buick, you absolutely, in the second round, I think you came up 8 spots. You had a great finish. How's your game this season? With everything that's going on, how are things going for you?
My game's been pretty good earlier this season. It's strayed away here lately, but I've been able to have a lot more time to work on it because we've been out of school a lot, and then I quit baseball last year to free me up some more time because that was all the way till May. And so this year I've been able to practice a lot more. I changed golf swing coaches to Todd Trimble out of Paducah, and he's helped me a lot get back to my old game where I was, but I've been pretty happy with the way my game's been this year.
So I had asked Faith this question, and I'm going to ask you, how do you determine, what were you looking at to work on this season or during the summer to get you ready for this season? What parts of your game did you say, hey, I want to improve on this?
Well, my wedge game's been pretty good my whole life, and then this year I got a new driver and grew a little bit, so my drives were a little bit longer, so that's just, I've had to change my game a little bit to hitting shorter wedge shots into the greens and stuff like that. My short game's been pretty spot on this year too, so it's just been mainly working on just those nice little wedge shots into the greens because my longer irons and stuff, my distances just keep on going up this year.
Well, one of the photos that we have of you happens to be when I think you were an 8th grader. Mm-hmm. And, you talk about kind of growing into some of your clubs and so forth. How has that transition been for you over the years? Because you have gotten taller. You've gotten stronger, bigger. That's just the natural way it goes. But, for a golfer that you have to have technique and you have to have feel and so forth, what has that been like for you?
Well, the saying is it really doesn't matter how far you hit it, just as long as you hit it straight. So, and you look at like PGA Tour, Bryson DeChambeau hitting bomb drives, and it just makes it a lot easier. So, that's how it's kind of been for me. Back in 8th grade, I would have maybe driver 6-iron into the greens where as of now, I have driver, pitching wedge into most of the greens.
Isn't that nice?
So it's just, it makes it a lot easier making a lot more birdies.
So, one of the notes that I had was that 4 out of the top 5 guys are returning from the region tournament last year. They're coming back. What is it like? Playing with other guys that are going to be coming back that you've played at other tournaments with, and knowing that they're going to return this year for another season?
I've played with them a ton. It's kind of sad seeing the bigger guys. CM left 2 years ago, and then we lost Owen and Collier this past year, and those were the guys I pretty much grew up competing my early high school years. But now these other younger guys, Jacob and Michael Lang from Greenwood, they're a little bit younger, and they've come along strong last year. And Charlie Reber from Bowling Green's come up strong, Reed Ritchie.
Yeah.
Then Nathan Oliver, he's a senior, and I've played with him some. So, I've played with them a lot, and I know their game, but we're all pretty close there together. And then Dalton Fiveash from Franklin, our one man, he's pretty good this year.
So do you have a pre-game routine for you, a pre-tournament, the day of the tournament? Do you have certain things that you have to do to, do you eat the same, do you have a special breakfast, or what is it?
I usually don't eat a ton before a tournament. I'll have like a little snack through the round, a bag of chips or something. I always drink a Mountain Dew during a tournament. Or
That'll get you going.
Yeah, it gets me a little bit of sugar. I'll show up maybe an hour to 45 minutes before, hit a little bit on the range, and then chip and putt. I don't put a whole lot of stress into it. I just like to go out and play my own game and play a little bit stress-free.
So who inspired you? I know your dad played golf. Did he inspire you to play golf? And how young were you when you first picked up a club?
I think I've had a club in my hand ever since I was born, honestly. My dad played for a while, or has been playing for probably 40 years. My mom played in high school. Both my granddads play some, so it's just kind of been in the family. I was pretty much born into it.
But you have to have a passion for golf, right? Because if you don't, you're not committed to it, and you either love golf or you don't. I would imagine you really love golf.
Yeah, it's a sport you can play your whole life. That's what my dad's dad, my grandpa, always told me. He said, baseball players and football players, they might play and then retire at like age 40. True. But, he's 87, goes out and still plays some. So, you can just play it your whole life, and it's a fun game.
That is fantastic. Chase, I'm so excited. You're just a junior. We've got 2 more seasons with you. Real quickly, goals this year?
I'd like to place even higher in the state this year. It was tied for 8th last year, so I'd like to get up there, maybe top 3, top 5 this year.
Well, good luck. We're cheering you on. That's going to do it for us for the Sporting Times. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.